Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to the Celtic Sunday Blether. Hope you are having a good morning. I hope the Celtic board are having a good morning indeed after yesterday's debacle. But yes, here we are for the Sunday Blether. No David Logue hosting today, so I'm going to step in and do that. But usually I'm on the Sunday Blether anyway, so I know how this show works. I know how the format goes. But yeah, it's going to be a spicy one, I think, folks, because as you can see, who's joining me for the Sunday Blether today? Oh, we've got the Judge and we've got Russell. Oh, it's going to be a lively one. Russell, you did a solo PMP last night. How you feeling now? 12 hours or so past whatever since then, or whatever it's been. How you feeling, mate?
Yeah, cracked open a beer already. 11:30, man. Just like that. Miserable. I'm only joking. I would do that anyway. I mean, yesterday, like I said on the solo show, if you want to call it that, which was part of what's then it maybe looks sometimes you're like, fucking hell, you can get a breath in between, especially when you're live. But like, as I said yesterday, I mean, the thing was, after the game, you can't be like even more gutted than you were during it, because never has there been a Celtic match in my life where I've watched the last sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, and had such little faith in the team getting a winner. So it wasn't like once the final whistle went, bastard. I kind of had that feeling kind of bed into me already, do you know what I mean? Because I had absolutely no hope, no faith whatsoever that they would go on and win that match yesterday, even at 1-0.
Aye, it was a grim feeling. I think many fans were in the same boat. And Sunday Blether, Marc Cairney, this is going to be a lively one. I'm sure you've got a lot to say on this. But before we get to that, how are you feeling first and foremost, mate?
Oh, it's just like Russell, absolutely scunnered with it all. I watched Russell's show this morning. I twitched my phone off for a few hours last night. I just couldn't be arsed with it all, mate. And even when I watched the show this morning, there was folk still messaging in Bhoycie saying that everything was fine and all the rest of it. And I just can't get that mindset at all. I think half the support are waking up to the reality. The reality is that isn't fine just now? Changes need to be made, and I think we're all feeling it. I think football is that much importance in our lives that when Celtic don't win or they're going the wrong direction, I think it affects you. And I think we're all feeling it this morning, mate. Not just the guys on the pod. I think the full fan base is feeling dejected and not knowing where to turn. And hopefully, pods like this give folk a wee outlet to vent a wee bit and let everybody know that we're all feeling the same way. It's not just Twitter or Instagram or whatever you view your points. We're all feeling the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know where we go next, but I'm sure we've all got an opinion on it and we'll talk about it today.
We will indeed. And of course, before we go any further with that, of course, when folks hit all the like button, share, slag the hair, as Russell likes to say. But yeah, all that good stuff is normal. Like, comment, subscribe. We're getting close to 4,500. We're not too far off it now. So yeah, it'll be the next sort of milestone for us. So always appreciate that. And of course, head over to piesports.com and use the code BUS1888 and get yourself 12.5% off your order. Now, let's get into it. So yesterday, obviously, Celtic won, Aberdeen won, or obviously reverse frame rounds up to Pittodrie. But yesterday, you went to the game. Friday night, I did the show. I was relatively confident because I still thought that I know things have been a bit toxic around the club, but our record against Aberdeen isn't too bad, you know, in recent years, to say the least. We tend to brush them aside. I was more concerned about this coming Wednesday because our record at Easter Road has been more abysmal, so now it's even worse. But yeah, obviously going at the game, I felt, I said on Friday night, one of those ones I thought we would won 2-0, but we might need to wait a little while for a goal, which seems to be a thing under Brendan Rodgers and his style. And the way the game was playing out yesterday, first half, I thought we were pretty comfortable. We had a goal disallowed for many things wrong, and it seems there was a whole chain of events in the VAR review that they could have nailed us on. But anyway, Aberdeen didn't even touch the ball in the Celtic box, which showed you just how out of the game they were. I was already starting to think, Russell, about Chris Boyd's meltdown at full time, because no doubt he would have had something to say about Aberdeen no laying a glove on Celtic again, because it was heading that way. But then came out for the second half and something weird happened, Russell. A wild game of football broke out and Celtic didn't seem to have an answer for it. It became so stretched. And by the end of it, we were genuinely lucky to even get a point. Given how that first half played out, it was an absolute bizarre set of circumstances. It felt a bit like the Kilmarnock game back in December, where we had a pretty comfortable first half. We went in 1-0 at half-time in that game. But the second half, Kilmarnock obviously came out and thought, we're going to have a go here. Aberdeen did the same, and it's just like Celtic were shell-shocked by it. Like, how dare a team try and step up to us here? We've still got an answer for it. And yeah, it was like a game of basketball yesterday. It was like one end to the other, back and forth. And then by the end of it, Russell, genuinely, a point was actually a good result for Celtic the way that it panned out, because it could have been actually worse.
Well, we've seen it a few times this season, either Celtic having a very good first half, and then, as you say, the Kilmarnock game, a complete drop-off in the second. We've seen Celtic start and have an absolute terrible, dreadful first half, and then come out the traps in the second half. And yesterday, it was like they came out with one message that they wanted to play from, and then the second half played with a completely different tactical message. I don't know what was going on there. Like, it just seemed like the whole philosophy, or whatever you want to call it, the way they were set up, or the mindset of how they were going to play, or the style of play, they were told one thing in one half and a different one in the second. They can't be that mentally fragile that when a team steps up against them and has a go, when they're at home, especially with that, not the new manager bounce, but you know what I mean, when an old manager goes, there's always going to be that wee sort of lift anyway. I mean, they're at home, they've got every right to then kick on a wee bit. As far as I'm concerned, Celtic should have more than enough to be able to deal with that, and can't be for any second sitting feeling offended, as you say, or anything like that. But notwithstanding that, it did feel like that. The second half, it did look like it wasn't sure what direction that even we should take to try and overcome it was. Because, see, towards the end, I know people say Rodgers' football's turgid, and it has been very much so, and so often this season. It didn't look like a Rodgers team towards the end. I wasn't quite convinced what the style was. And what fucks me off is, as well, see if the answer is you think two strikers in the park to try and salvage a win when you're drawing, how come the answer never before a game is two strikers in the park to go all out and get the win in the first place? That just annoys me, that, because it's almost like an acceptance that this might be an effective way to play when you're needing something, but we're all too snobby these days in modern football to accept and change that, the elite teams don't do it. Nobody cares, mate. There's a lot of snobbery that goes on with the elite teams when you watch the EPL, for example, as well, where there's passing out the back. You listen to more and more pundits now going, they're passing out for passing out the back's sake, because it's the in vogue thing to do. It's short corners because it's the in vogue thing to do. It's one up front because that's what the good teams do. I think that, when you accept that the answer was to go, two strikers in the park yesterday, albeit it never felt like they were both playing as a complete pair, I still think there's enough acceptance there that might be a good idea, but we just don't want to do it for whatever fashion sake is. It's just it frustrates the life out of me, that snobby attitude. And I would like to see Celtic try something more aggressive in terms of the lineup and the formation going forward, or certainly be quicker to change to that, and it not always being when they're desperate to chase a game, because they've been more used to it in those scenarios as well.
No, I totally agree in that. And it's getting really frustrating, because what you said in your point there about we should have more than enough to beat Aberdeen, regardless of what's going on right now around the club, where it is a bit toxic. And you still look at it the way their season's been panning out, and the way we should still be able to go up there and get a win. But yeah, that second half, we were just shell-shocked, and it's like, what is going on with that? But Mark, the headline I put on the show today, because I happened to read another headline from a newspaper this morning, that Brendan has apparently told the players not to be concerned with fan anger. And as I say in the title, he probably should be. That's a ludicrous thing to come away with, because at the end of the day, the fans are the lifeblood of the club. And this whole, if he's now putting out that message there, it's very reminiscent to what happened in 2020-21, that season, where the boards just basically put their fingers in their ears and went, we're not listening to you. And it's like, mate, the difference is, of course, we weren't in the stadiums back then, but now fans are in the stadiums and are making their voices very heard. I know there was a banner yesterday at the end of the game, obviously telling the Celtic board, be it on their head. So obviously the message was pretty strong there. These sort of things, these messages have got to keep getting conveyed, regardless of what Brendan's saying about the players who ignore it and turn yourself off from fan anger. I mean, I'd like to think the players are smart enough to know that the fans have got a point here. They have that. It's not been good enough. It's been far from good enough. And again, these guys are much better players than teams like Aberdeen, but they're not showing it. But yeah, that headline this morning, Mark, when I saw it, I was just like, I can't believe. Oh, no, I can actually believe it, to be fair. With the way things are going, I can kind of believe that one, that he might have said that. So what's your take on that one? As angry as I am about it?
Well, it's the second week in a row. I said last week that the fans just boo for the sake of it. This is the second week in a row that the manager's flung the fans under the bus. He's flung the players under the bus. He mentioned the board in December when we started to lose matches, and then backtracked in January, and then after the window closed, put the boot on the board again. It's all about everybody else other than him. He's all about, I said before, the ball's nose blind to outside noises. I think he's nose blind to anything other than he's in arrogance. I mean, yesterday he's sitting and I was saying that, pre-match he was sitting saying, I should have been a bit more forceful in the window. Well, you had all of January. You had September till January to be forceful. You told the fans everything was fine. And basically yesterday morning told a reporter he's had enough questions about transfer windows. So that means that excuses for that man are over. None of the fans, he said that he's happy with the window. So none of the fans can use that as an excuse now. I think there's nothing the board can do now to affect the play on the park other than sack him. So it's now you picked up the baton, Brendan, and you go for it. And if anything typified Celtic's transfer window was yesterday, with Bernabe no good enough playing as a left back. With a left back injured 2 weeks ago, didn't get replaced. We all knew the dangers of Bernabe. He gives the ball away and scores a goal. That's then even magnified by Miovski, a guy who we all tipped to be the man to come into Celtic and have some strength and depth up front. He scores a goal against us. That typified our transfer window. And then you've also got Lagerbielke, who was told he can't go anywhere in case we needed him, for a guy who's injured for 2 weeks. Totally playing with that guy's career, by the way. Totally playing with that guy's mindset, right? And the guy didn't even make the squad yesterday. We've got young players we've never seen before. Guys like that are playing in the 5th tier of Scottish football and not excelling, by the way. He's hardly excelling in the 5th tier. He scored a 1-yard goal against Bucky Thistle against a 5th tier team, which is his level. And he's not excelling against guys who, if they're lucky and weather dictates, they can train twice a week. And that guy's got a luxury of 7 days a week. Gym access and football analysis, you name it, and the guy's not excelling. So let's just put all this shit to bed about the squad doesn't get places for guys like Lagerbielke. If Vata and that other boy, can't remember his name, can make a bench, there's places for these guys. He was chosen not to be picked, which is another stupid move by Brendan Rodgers. I think yesterday was just the nail in the coffin for a lot of people that was carrying Brendan Rodgers' flag. For me, it's been a while now that I've thought to myself, you've picked up the baton, Brendan. You've told all of us that we're not allowed to boo. We're entitled. The transfer window was bad 1 minute. It was good the next. Then it was bad when it suits your argument. You're telling the players not to listen to the fans' reaction. But then you're telling players that the atmosphere at Celtic Park's amazing on Champions League nights, and this is what we're all here for. We're all special. We need to be united together. But we all should be a one. When you divide yourself, you get beat. And then the next press conference or the next interview, it tells the players not to listen to the fans. So what way do you want it, Brendan? It's just almost every time he opens his mouth, it's just pish that's coming at it. I'm a mug that fell for it. I fell for it when he came back. I wanted him back. I thought he was the best candidate. I still think he was the best candidate. But only if he had, one, he was going to be backed naively. He wasn't backed. And two, he was going to come back and have the balls to demand being backed. None of the two have happened. So what we've got now is not a diet, Brendan. That's now gone. Now we've got a very diluted Brendan. A guy who's a shadow of the manager he was before at Celtic. He's up against his first proper test in Rangers. Since the guys came in, he's took 11 points on him. Now, we've beat Rangers in that time, and we're still now in a position where Wednesday night we could be behind Rangers with Rangers having a game in hand. That's a reality. It's a very real reality. So some people in our support need to get their head out the sand because a lot of them are saying the same COVID stuff. Our Rangers are shite. They'll blow it after January. They'll blow it this. They'll blow it that. As soon as the pressure comes on, Tav will start panicking. All that stuff, the usual. But the reality is we get players that don't react. They know to pressure. We've got a captain who was running about that park doing so much work yesterday that he became ineffective because O'Reilly was shite and Bernardo, who's played 3 good games in 6 months, was invisible again. Two fullbacks that are fucking hopeless. I thought Scales played his worst game. Palmer, who shouldn't have come out in the second half, gets subbed in the 87th minute. We had just one more point. We had Naroki, who was on a yellow card, should get red carded. A minute later, the commentator says there's 3 subs coming up. I'm saying, good, it's Naroki. No, three different subs. Then after that, he decides to bring him off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're saying to yourself, at what point did you think that was a good idea? That to leave a man who was playing very poorly, to be honest with you. Miovski got all the space at Pittodrie yesterday, allowed to run onto him. He was like, come on, as far as you want. Didn't push him, didn't press him. And then he didn't bring him off, and the guy should have been sent off. I just don't understand it. I think anybody that was under any illusions where this football team, this philosophy, this football team is going, was laid bare yesterday, guys. It was laid bare for you. That was a tough place to go to. Historically, we've won there.
Yeah.
The tactics, formation, style of play, refusal to change it when he should have, just stinks of arrogance. And for him to tell the 1,000 Celtic fans who left the house at 6 a.m. yesterday to travel fucking 300-400 miles to tell the players not to listen to them, he can go and take a fuck to himself as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's a fair statement. I say they are travelling a long distance. It's a hell of a trek up to Aberdeen for them, and yeah, they're totally justified in their anger. So it is a bit of a mad statement, but you're all right. He did say something similar last week as well. So it's a bit of a recurring pattern now, which is a worrying sign. And yeah, what you're saying there about the tactics or the changes is very much a microcosm of Celtic in general, because we are a reactive club, it seems, and he seems to be a reactive manager. Yeah, Palmer shouldn't have come out in the second half. Hey, Palmer might not shouldn't even have started, really, because let's be honest, he's been actually turgid for a while now. Abada obviously played last week against Ross County, and he was invisible, and yesterday was the exact same. We've obviously brought in Nicholas Kuhn in the window. He came on and, albeit massively deflected, did have an instant impact and did score. What was the harm in starting Kuhn yesterday over one of the two? And it's like, because these boys have been out of form for a while. So it does feel like he's now just, I don't know if it's stubbornness or whatnot. And then, reactive substitutions. You can see it's not working. And he waits until Aberdeen have scored, and suddenly it's 3 subs all at once, and just I know the incident you're talking about as well with Nawrocki with the second foul where they pointed out, by the way, he's on a booking, and it is one of those where you're like, by the way, he got away with one there, which would have just really summed up our day if we gone down to 10 men as well. It would have really summed up how bad it had been. But Russell, obviously, we have to plod on. Now, here's obviously the thing. A lot of fans are obviously saying that, they would be happy if Brendan left now. Let's do a hypothetical situation. Let's say Brendan does go imminently. Let's say he's sacked or walks, which I don't think either will happen because of the payoff Celtic would have to give him right now. I think, worryingly, there's a bit of a similarity, again, going back to 2021. But again, would you trust the Celtic board to actually make a really progressive appointment right now? Or would it be John Kennedy at the end of the season? Would you even be surprised if that happened? Because right now, I don't know what if that did happen, if Brendan was gone, I couldn't trust them what they would do next. It's so unpredictable right now.
Well, this is when you find yourself between a rock and a hard place with the Celtic board, because they've got you in a complete vice that way. I said yesterday, at the end of the day, I think there was someone pushing back on the fact that, well, it doesn't matter who's in charge. They won't get backed under this board anyway. And like I was trying to point out yesterday the window's shut. We're talking about now trying to win the title. It's short-termism pish, as usual. Even I'm now having to resort to it. This is my least favourite version of Celtic debate that I can ever have, is what can we do to muddle our way through to a domestic title? I call it ground day when we're being just domestic bliss. Let alone this, where it's like, what can we possibly do to scrape a title? And it's what can we accept going forward? Not what do we want going forward. What could maybe get us over the line going forward? Now, what you first and foremost, you're in a situation where you take Brendan out, and it is based then clearly on he's not rocked the boat hard enough in the last 2 windows, and his tactics have been pish. So if his tactics were boring, but he got his personnel in that maybe understood them better, we might have seen different outcomes. Unfortunately, he's been as underwhelming as anyone with both his performances in the boardroom, trying to convince them to spend their money, and his performances on the park. Now, between now and the end of the season, you would be looking for that manager kick-on. We don't need to rely on it being a manager between now and the end of the season to go and get what he wants in the transfer window as it is closed. So it'll be someone to come in and try and reinvigorate the team and get that motivation and get them playing with a wee bit more aggression, a wee bit more purpose, and a wee bit more belief, I think, as well. Because I do think, for whatever reason, this team on a 6-game league winning run look bereft of confidence. I mean, it was a 6-game domestic run, one of the two. But they seem bereft of confidence yesterday when they go a goal down, as you rightfully point out, Phil, when they're pushed back as well. They just don't know what to do. But that manager that's come in, I can only see it then being an interim manager. And if it's an interim manager, I do arrive at Kennedy being that option. But he's not going to do anything different with the tactics. He's not good enough. But why the hell would you then trust us both to go out and get a creative appointment? It doesn't. That argument doesn't work either. No. Albeit, as I say, I still said yesterday, I think the best chance of us having an outcome would just be Landon lucky instead of it being Brendan. Because when Brendan's there, right now, it's not worked. We need to accept it. I don't think Brendan particularly wants to be there. I don't think he's going to walk away from his payoff. I don't blame him for that. He's a human being. At the end of the day, you're sitting on your big contract. You don't jeopardise it, no matter what the fucking job is. Just because it's Celtic, we can't be blinded to the fact we think that just gonna give it up. Just give up 10 million for the love of the club. Fuck off. No one does that. But it's who he gets replaced with. You would just hope. You would hope with a blindfold on. No way are you going, this board will go out with a plan and they'll go and speak to some. Jose's free. We're going to get Josie in for the rest of the season. I mean, fucking hell, that would be the most exciting thing in the history of the world ever. I'd be fucking loving life if it was. He's my man. Like, oh, I love it. He's my man. But, like, there's just, there's not got the imagination to do that and go, here's 5 million. We'll give you another fucking 2 million bonus if you go and win as the league. Just stay and sign to the end of the season. It's worth it when 65 is at stake. It's a small price to pay that they should have done in transfer fees in the January window, but they chose not to. They won't do that, though. And it would be an unimaginative, and you're just going in with blind hope. But I do accept, and I don't want to accept, but I do accept, I think the best chance for Celtic to win the league would be without Brendan in charge. A couple of things that was said earlier as well. I don't see any comparison with the COVID season, but I don't also think Celtic won't win the league or can't win the league or anything like that. I think it's all a knife edge. I think it's very 50-50. I don't think the momentum is with them as much as they boast and blag that it is. And I don't think the momentum we would claim is with us as much as they're saying. Had we lost to them only 3-4 games ago, I think if we'd lost them, we'd be far more realistic in where we sat in terms of momentum. I just think they love to gloat straight away and they spell fear off us, and we tend to be the opposite of that. I don't think the seasons are comparable either in terms of who's in charge, in terms of the play, in terms of the guys on the park either. And I think anyone who's counting their chickens on Tav shiting himself and that are idiots, to be perfectly honest with you, not even worth listening to. I definitely feel like this is a completely unique season. I do feel it is the most 50-50 one, because we need to remember the one Rangers won was so one-sided in their favour. They didn't lose a game that year. And we were toxic from October onwards. It's February now. Yeah. We still, if both teams win the games in hand and all that, and we do go back to winning ways this week, just the other side of the argument, obviously, we would still be the bona fide leaders of the league on goal difference unless they get a big spanking in. I know that doesn't count for much, but like I say, that would leave it on a knife edge, albeit slightly in Celtic's favour. I'm not getting COVID season vibes, and I don't think that's the argument I would be using to be realistic about where Celtic's form is right now, or real chances of jeopardy are. I think they're fair points that we're in jeopardy. I don't see the parallels with that. I just see it as the first season we've had since Sevco. Let's put that wee blanket around us, call him Sevco. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's the first season I think we're in a title race. And it's a real race to the end this time, and fuck knows who'll be back to win it. But I think Celtic, whilst they can't influence the playing staff, I think the board could make one final decision for the first time this season. And I think the best one would be to get rid of the guy they didn't want in the first place.
It seems to be the case. Although you're saying being a title race, I do think back to 2 seasons ago, Ange's first one went down to the second last game before we officially wrapped up the title. And there's still quite a few players in that squad right now who were there 2 years ago So you'd like to think, they know what it takes to get over the line, but yeah, the environment just seems so different 2 years ago. Because a lot of people do forget, as good as that first season under Ange became, obviously when we got the momentum going, it was the second last game of the season up at Tannadice when we officially wrapped up the title, so it was quite close. And if this one has plays it a similar way, have the players got the mettle to get over the line? Because it's touch and go right now, and you're right, it is on a knife edge. I'm not at the point where I'm saying, oh, it's over and they've won, but we are doing everything in our power, it seems, to throw it away. And Mark, a point there, just talking about if there was a manager change, my biggest concern is, because let's be honest, right, Celtic are a huge team. They are a huge brand. A lot of world football knows of our club and knows what's going on. Surely any manager worth their salt sees what's going on right now and thinks, I couldn't work under the conditions, because it's been so bizarre for day one. Brendan comes back after leaving in 2019, and it was very clear the reasons why he left in 2019 because of what's pretty much happening right now, where there was no real backing for the board. There's always been some fallings out somewhere, and he walked away. But he comes back and you think, right, there must be promises, there must have been bridges built, and it's going to be different this time, and obviously it's not happened. But again, other managers who might be thinking, oh, Celtic be a good job to get in it, and they see what's going on, and they must think, no, I don't want a piece of that. That's what worries me the most, is the board are potentially scaring off any real progressive appointments, and that's why I've seen the name going up there in the chat. Somebody says the board probably ideally wants Scott Brown as manager. Oh no, please no, please, that can't be a reality at all. But the way things are going is, if you want a real top end manager, a real statement appointment, it just feels to me like the board are doing everything in their power to just fend off any sort of appointment in the future if Brendan was to go, Mark.
The board's fucking scaring away the fan base, never mind the next manager. So I get your point. I don't think world football, I think we kind of elevate ourselves. I think we are kind of we're on the periphery of anybody's vision when it comes to world football. So I think Sunday would do their digging and maybe phone a couple of people that have been inside the club and find out details. But I think anybody that is in Holland will probably just see a team that's won 10 out of the last 11 or whatever it is and just think, oh, everything's fine there. I don't think they don't really know the ins and outs here. We even get people in their own fan base, mate, that think the board did a good job. So, and they're within the actual bubble of Celtic. So I can't see that. But the board itself, mate, since you asked me about the board and the next managerial call, they would just close their eyes and throw a dart. I still think that as much as I thought Brendan Rodgers was the right call, it was lazy. It was he's a wee black book and Brendan's at work. They wouldn't have phoned Brendan Rodgers if he was in work. If they wouldn't have phoned Brendan Rodgers, I seen something yesterday, the last 6 managers, 2 of them have been there twice. And you go, fuck. So they have. And you go, hey, our chief scout and our first team coach is Gordon Stratton's boys. Our chairman and our head of recruitment as such are related, and you go, they've not got much imagination. It's like a bowling club philosophy. Just whatever's easiest, whatever's casual, just put a suit on and a Saturday and go and watch the football. There's no much more to it than that for them. They're incompetent at their job. Don't let anybody disguise the fact that we've won trophies. We've won trophies in spite of the board's meddling. I've said it for a long time now. Let's be honest. Rangers went bust, right? Or can they come back to life? Whatever you want to talk about and all the rest of it. We should have won every title. There's no danger. We had 10, 12 free shots at the Champions League, and we only get in twice in the last fucking decade, more than we should have got in, because Rangers got to a position where we qualified automatically because of their hard work in Europe. We only qualified a couple of times ourselves through the qualifiers. We should have been in a position where, and we are in a position financially, but there's no think that Celtic's financial position is because of the board's structure and elevating contracts and kit deals. The kit deal 2015 was 25 million, 2015, 2020, 15 years later was £5 million more. Inflation and parallel clubs in the same size of structure as Celtic would well
2005 was like 2005 Nike deal.
Aye, 25 million.
It's only 5 million more than Adidas one.
I think Ajax is probably doubled or tripled, and they're probably the same size of club.
It's
So
probably
it's
still
someone-
Ajax. Adidas.
Aye, and then you look at the money we're going to bank. You say, well, I think a huge factor in that is the Champions League. Again, Rangers got us there twice. We won the league. Don't get me wrong. We got us there, but the board didn't put us in a position to bust through qualifiers and get to there. So that was a huge chunk of why we've got that cash reserve. A couple of good signings, a couple of good sell-ons, right? But we've also in that time had a fan base that have broken the Adidas website with buying kits. We've got 4 kits this season. We've got new training range every month, right? We've got stadiums sold out, whether people go or no. Every home match is sold out a month in advance. Every away game is sold out. Hydro fucking tickets are sold out. We've got kiosks queued for Celtic Park to fucking London. No London Road, to London to get a pie and getting charged £10 a head. You go to the pub before the match in the stadium and you're charged 89 quid, 12 pence for a fucking pizza slice. It's shite. You know what I mean? And it's their position in the club is inflated by a fan base that is loyal, unlike most clubs in the world. We buy kits whether we like them or no. I've got kits in there with the tag still on them, they're that rotten, but we still buy them. We still buy season tickets. I've actually listened to a few podcasts this week who have said they're not going back. Individuals, good on them. That's a stance I think they should take. Me personally, I'll never get my seat back again, and I don't want to get up, so I just couldn't do it. But it's crossed my mind. In fact, I should show you how much of a dickhead am. I've been saying to myself all week, I'm going to put my own embargo on them. I'm not going to buy merchandise. I bought 2 things this morning, no thinking. And do something. And I went into a bought it. I went, what did I do that for? It was only 30 quid or something. But I thought to myself, that is how they've got you, Phil.
Yeah, of course.
And there's like 14, 15,000 people that are on a waiting list just now, right?
Yep.
So see if me, you, your dad don't want to go, do you know something? Somebody who's been waiting for 10 years, they're going to get a ticket.
They're going to get it.
They're going to happily buy the ticket. Happily. Whether it's Brendan Rodgers or Buck Rodgers, they're going to buy the ticket, right?
Yep.
But the thing is, see, I speak about this very often, right? What we had in 1994 to make change at Celtic is we had a fan base that found out there was a break-even figure for the club. We knew the attendance, the financial implications of Celtic not getting that figure.
Yep.
With force change within the club, right? We've not got that now. We've got a 53,000 season ticket fan base, commercial revenue signed up for years, kit deals. There's everywhere in the streets get the full strip. They've got boys, they've got fucking, you name it. You know what I mean? They're up to heat to toe merchandise, Adidas stuff. So so there's nothing. The only pressure we can put on the club is vocally. When we get into the stadium, sack your board should be sung for the fucking very first minute, and then intervals through the match, and then even outside the stadium at full time. I'd be up for that, right? But we did it once because Hearts beat us. 2 days later, the board made the easy decision to bring back the Green Brigade, and it was all champagne and Skittles. Nobody cared anymore. They only care when we get beat. In fact, Brendan Rodgers even said this when results start. I think it was yesterday. He said that when the results start to come back into your favour, these things tend to disappear. That's how arrogant he is that he came out and said it to your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we've already spoke about it, but 2 weeks in a row, he's sitting telling the fans that they don't matter. He's sitting saying, "You're booing me." Yes, because the football is the worst I've seen as a Celtic supporter. You're booing the board. Because the board have orchestrated a downsizing in expectations. They've orchestrated Rangers possibly winning the league, and they've orchestrated a fan base so enraged that they're turning on each other. They're sitting on Twitter arguing with each other. People constantly fighting with each other about who the manager should be, about the Green Brigade, or the infighting. I spoke to Russell about this on Thursday. You tell me a recipe for disaster better than this. You've got a fan base that's turning on each other. You've got a manager who splits the support from day one. You've got a board of directors who didn't want the manager, and the manager who's 1 minute sitting up for the board, 1 minute hating the board, and you've got a manager telling the fans that their opinion doesn't count. You tell me how that ends successful. And you've also got a group of players, in my opinion, who either don't like his philosophy or can't play to it. You tell me how that ends well, Phil. That's a question for you, mate, because I don't know how that ends well. If you had to make this perfect storm of shit, that's how you would do it.
No, it's some of the things that you said, and we know nowadays footballers are a very emotional bunch. It's not like the old days where they could take the hairdryer treatment and a bit of criticism and they would react. Nowadays footballers want to be mollycoddled, and when he's saying things like, I mean, go back to the Nawrocki and Lagerbielke comments he made in the sort of like November when he was asked at a press conference why they're not featuring, essentially said they're just not good enough, and it's like, well, the players are obviously going to hear that information. And what are they going to think? These are things that are going to turn players against you. And yeah, like Tony's saying here, that Brendan Rodgers seems incapable of motivating this team, as he says in his comment there. And the way things are going into these performances, I thought last week against Ross County, obviously it was dreadful. Yeah, we did get the win, but you thought, okay, maybe it was just like a blip, because before Christmas or before the January break, those 4 games running up to the January break, we were picking up a bit of steam, a bit of momentum, but it came at the worst possible time, that break, essentially, because it has killed our momentum. We've came back with these 2 quite turgid performances and dropped points already. And in regards to what you're saying as well, Mark, about, boycotting and whatnot, I said this on Friday to Liam, one of the problems that we've got is this, it's a very emotional fan base, the Celtic fan base. The idea of boycotting, a lot of fans say that's detrimental to the team, and we can't allow that to happen because it would allow Rangers to win titles. So the board have essentially got fans right where they want them, because they know that's not going to happen. And yeah, sadly, like what you said about 1994, you're right, fans did learn about the break-even stuff, but nowadays the club are quite happily waving a big flag saying, we've got this amount of money in the bank, we're super rich, and don't seem to want to spend it. So trying to affect that in some way is, I don't know, next season, do we boycott the Champions League ticket packages? How much a dent does that make on
That's
them?
an idea. That's an idea. I would get behind that. I know Russell, probably anybody in this pod, is right for trying to squeeze as much juice as he can out of the Champions League, and he's right. We should be shooting for the stars, 100%. But you know something? That would be a message, because Celtic would be embarrassed to have your stadium, especially with Lawwell being on the European board, being all over Europe, where folk they watch Celtic and see half-empty stadiums in match day 1. I think that would send a message, and financially it would cost the club a lot of money. And then people that are wanting dividends would say, well, what is going on there? Why is the Celtic support, who are probably the Champions League club when it comes to atmosphere and colour and festival, why are they not attending? For me, that's a perfect solution. They look at a penny off of me. I think the price there I can put up with, but the return and quality I get for it, nah, not for me. Nah, I think it's an absolute diabolical situation.
I think if you cast your mind back to the group stage before the Feyenoord game, it was something that I'd proposed. I think I'd suggested, not proposed, suggested on one of the shows. I'd said, I know you've bought the ticket, so that's fair enough. I mean, if you want to get your money's worth, if you've spent already on it, but because it is such as a dead rubber, they won't like. I made the exact same point as you, Mark. I said, Lawwell being on the ECA, he will not like his stadium being the only empty one in the Champions League highlights reel that goes round. Remember, whatever equivalent you're watching on TNT Sports on a Wednesday night, there's an equivalent of that in Germany, equivalent of that in France, Spain, Italy, massive countries, massive football followers, and massive viewing numbers. And that undeniably would, I think, cause the embarrassment factor. It wouldn't have hit him financially, but it's also a shot over the bow if we'd done that before the Feyenoord game, because this is what will happen next year if you're to follow it through and carry on the way you are in all the games in the Champions League. You don't show up for it, so why should we? Should be the attitude. And at the end of the day, Celtic didn't treat that tournament with any respect over the last 2 years, despite automatic qualification. What we found ourselves in, I'm trying to keep up with the amount of points getting raised, and I knew it was going to be like this today because it's fucking mental. You're reading comments, Mark's on a roll, and I'm like, shit, I'm trying to keep. So some are coming up to me, are flashing in my mind right now. One of them, shit, now I've lost it. For the Champions League qualifying, right? So what we were told often, and I think a lot of people probably understood, I probably did it first and then stopped believing it. And we don't want to go all out in case we don't qualify. We know how notoriously tricky Champions League the playoff rounds are. So therefore we can't go all in. It's Europa League budget, all this sort of fucking thing, right? Then we qualify for the Champions League twice via coefficient. So we're already in the group stage. Same thing happens again. We don't have an excuse for that.
No.
Now, what it strikes me is the excuse for fucking not strengthening January there sounds awfully familiar. And it's, well, what if we don't win the league this year? Aha, see? Our cash balance will stay the same. And I think that's where we're entering into dangerous territory. That's so negative, so uninspired, and shows such a lack of faith in what investments you've already made, i.e. in the coaching staff and the playing staff. If you think like that, it should be every window you go into, you come out stronger. And that won't mean £25 million players get replaced with £25 million players. That means £25 million players get investments that transcend what was paid on those ones that we sold for the 25 initially. So if we buy a Jota, this is how I think of it. There's not always going to be fees. There'll be the odd £1.5 million O'Reilly. I take that point. But when you look at the strike rate now of 2 million signings, it just don't cut it, guys. Let's stop kidding on fees don't have an influence. And the likelihood of a £6 million player being better than the 2 million one stares you in the face time and time again if you've got the right recruitment staff. Isn't that right, Craig Strachan? So my worry would be if you sell a Jota for £25 million and he's cost initially £6 million, why would you not replace his £25 million with an £9 million player next time round? You might sell him for 25, 30 million. You might then go up and replace him with a 10, 11 million pound player. Include all the wages, put it all as one package, and look what you sold him for, and you've still made profit and had quality, a far more likelihood of quality outcomes on the park delivered by that player while he's been here, and then your money back and some profit once they go. This is called evolving with the times. People don't think we can't, or people think we can't do certain things. It's all about what Celtic can't do, not what they can do. But the reason people are conditioned to think this is we're so far away from it. We've never moved with the times or attempted to, even at a relative pace. You know, no one's expected Celtic to pay £100 million Paul Pogba signings. Never were. Celtic fans expected Celtic to break its transfer record when it's been. See, if you want to boast about 17 league titles the last 21 or whatever, or the last 24, how come within that period we didn't break our transfer record for 19 years? That is fucking unfathomable that could have happened in that same period of time. So we wanted Celtic to move at a relative pace alongside Celtic's success. We didn't do that either.
It's just one shambles after another. And speaking of which, where do we go from here? Well, we go to a ground where we've been a shambles for a while now. Easter Road, Mark. That's the next game. Not easy because I think I could be wrong in this. You might need to correct me here. I think only Ange got one win there and Neil Lennon won a cup game there since Hibs came back up to the top flight in 2017. A record at Easter Road is pretty bad. If there's another win in there, if you can remember it, or if anyone in the chat can remember it, then let me know. But I'm pretty sure Ange got a win there, and I say Neil Lennon had just taken over as interim manager, and we beat them in a cup game where James Forrest and Scott Brown scored, and that's the only ones that was. Our record there is abysmal. Obviously, we drew 0-0 there early in the season, and that's the next game. As I said earlier on the show, where I was doing the Friday night one with Liam. I was more worried about Wednesday than I was about Pittodrie. I was like, we should go up to Aberdeen and beat them, but I'm more concerned about Wednesday night. But no, we've went and dropped points up at Aberdeen now, and we're going to a ground where our record has been pretty shambolic recently. But yeah, at the end of the day, Brendan's not going anywhere right now. Hypothetically, as we were talking earlier about manager change and stuff, but he's going to be in the dugout. This team are still there, so how does he change it radically, Mark, for Wednesday night? How does he get a reaction out of them? Is it capable he can get a reaction by this stage? Is it too far gone? Or will they come roaring back? Will they actually react to the fan anger, Mark?
Well, they don't react to the fan anger because they're told not to listen to it. The fans don't matter. So next time Celtic score a goal, we'll no cheer. We'll look in the other direction because maybe that's what that prick in the dugout wants us to do. But no, I don't think he will change anything, so it's hypothetical. I would definitely find a solution to the left-back position. I don't think Bernabei should be playing football at any level in that mind for Celtic. I would suggest Arthur Johnson out on the left or Scales, bring in Ralston, right? Ralston won't win you a European Cup, but he rarely lets you down. Let's be honest, right? I know I'm a big fan of him, but I have to be honest, he's not going to win you titles, but he doesn't let you down. He's got a base level. But I think we'll go to solve that because that's a big issue. I think the fullbacks at Celtic have been an issue all season. But when you look at the wide areas, I think if you get Arthur Johnson and Abada, that's a poor fucking football side. That's a poor threat, right, on one side. You've got Palmer and Burnaby, for talking's sake. That's a very poor threat going forward as well. And Celtic use their word for a lot. And if you've not got O'Reilly and Bernardo and McGregor on their game, that's the heart of your team is not creative at all. But yesterday, we had 40 touches in the box yesterday. 40 touches in the box, right? And Kyogo didn't get a sniff. So that tells me that the situation is not just Kyogo's not getting service. He has been getting service at certain points. He's just not at it as much. It's a 50-50 thing. I think Kyogo isn't getting service as much. There was a brilliant ball at the tap, and his first touch was that bad it was nearly a shot. And we ended up scoring for it eventually. The man, the ball. So he is getting service. He is making the runs. Of course he is. He's been making the runs today. He got here. The difference is the style of play is not suiting him, and he's off form as well. So we find this a solution out of the park. Defence isn't working as a unit because it's not been a unit since day one. It's chopping and changing day in, day out, week in, week out. Midfield, I think, has been settled for about the last maybe since December, mid-December. It's been settled by the three in midfield. But the performances haven't been settled. I think Bernardo's hit or miss. I think O'Reilly, his last two games have been really bad. Was that the transfer speculation? Possibly. Who knows? Was he actually wanting to go? Was he told after Brendan Rodgers, no, you're not going anywhere? Who knows? Or maybe it's just sometimes players have bad games. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. McGregor, when the other two aren't playing well, when the width isn't doing much work, McGregor has to do everything, and you see him all the park, and that's no he can do that, McGregor. But he has Celtic's best performance for McGregor when McGregor's making the passes, he's pulling the strings. But he's having to do all the donkey work, he's nullified. And if you couple that with a striker who's out of form, not getting proper service, looking scunnered, it just doesn't add up. I mean, when you bring in Kuhn, I think I saw enough in his performances that he's not any worse than what we've got. That's for sure. He's not any worse. I think you can't play Palmer. I think his performances have been really shoddy. I think the two penalty misses last week, he shouldn't have come out in the second half. He did. Not only that, he came out and started the next match in 87 minutes. I think Rodgers is trying to push this as far as possible, hoping one day it clicks and we're all going to think he's a magician. I don't think Palmer's that good at all. I think his stats probably override his actual performances, which have been pretty shoddy. He can't beat a man. The Bucky right back had him on toast. He never beat him all day. It's the truth. If you watch that match, he never beat the Bucky Thistle player one time. The guy didn't get beat one time, not once. He got a goal chopped off, but that was him coming in for the wide area and just hitting a shot. He didn't beat anybody or create magic. And I don't know. I think the big boy come on. I think he's a dumpling, but you know something? He's a presence. I think he had a good touch. He should have scored. He had the post. But he's a presence, and it could work. It could work well with Kyogo. It's a big pitch, Easter Road, so maybe that height might help us. We've not getting any physicality through the team, so maybe that would help us as well. But Easter Road's probably the last place I'd want to go to. They're a Tynecastle midweek. I think it's a fucking tough place to go to. And I'm not that confident, and I rarely are confident at the better times. You know what I'm like, but I think you'd have to be seriously, just closing your eyes and just walking about with a blindfold on and earmuffs on if you didn't know Celtic are walking into a bad situation just now. I think you'd have to be really, really clutching at straws if you don't see what's happening in front of you. Celtic are heading for a poor run of results. They've got, in my opinion, the fixtures that are coming up are probably the worst set of fixtures we've got. As I said, with Pittodrie, Easter Road, Ibrox, Tynecastle, Fir Park and Livy away, all within our next 7 or 8 matches. And that is, even when Celtic are playing well, that's a fucking tricky set of fixtures. We've got a defence that I don't think is communicating well enough. We've got a keeper, great save yesterday, who I think is fucking well way off it, right? We've got a left back who's we don't know who he is, but he's fucking horrific when he's there. Right back, Arthur Johnson, I think his best football was under Ange. This season he's been terrible. Centre backs, it could be anybody. They could bring in Ian Regan this week. Midfield, if you get the midfield working, we've got a chance. But we've got to fix that. We've got to fix the width, because that is the areas where we can create space. If we can stretch the game, Kyogo gets in behind. Celtic used to be able to stretch the game under Ange. That's what he was good at. He was stretching the game. Players are out of the park, running about in different directions. Celtic were stretching the game constantly. Yeah. The players know that Celtic get the ball out wide after 14 passes rather than 2. They're composed, right? Palmer's not going to beat you. Abada's not going to beat you. There's no overlaps. Yep. So the right backs and left backs and centre mids aren't stretched. Nobody's coming out. Nobody's losing discipline. And that's how we're finding it so hard to break teams doing. And see, the most ironic thing yesterday, it was calm for somebody like David Turnbull who could hit the ball for 20 yards. Somebody 20 yards yesterday. Yeah. And David Turnbull, I was his biggest critic, and trust me, I'm glad he's away. There's all houses up in Cambuslang and Rutherglen, a lot safer with the windies. That guy's left Celtic Park, right? But one thing's for sure, there's always the chance of that ball popping off and somebody getting a rebound. You know what I mean? And we none of that yesterday. We need. I think, and just something just quickly. That guy was a managerial novice. It took him 45 minutes to work out how he hit Celtic, and that was just a thesis. Took that guy 45 minutes to work out Celtic, and that's a guy who's never. I knew it. A couple of that with a St Johnstone team who's just in some state, came to Celtic Park, get a result. Motherwell were in some state about to sack their manager, came and get a result. Ross County, whose manager tells him every week they're not good enough. He says week in, week out, you're not good enough to these players, right? And he managed to nearly get a result at Celtic Park. I really don't know. Yeah. You'd have to be really blind, really naive, and deaf and dumb to know what's going on here. And sometimes, if it's wet in the back of your neck, sometimes it is piss. That's what I'm saying.
Well, one of the things I found most frustrating yesterday was
I like Ian sitting on his wee cobble bridge, though. He does look pretty classy, to be honest. He's on his wee cobble bridge. He's got like wee triangle. He's got wee triangle cut sandwiches there that his mum's made for him. He's fully class. He's fully class.
He's got like a Tizon voucher, mate. Don't worry about that. He's had his one date last year.
I like Ian. I want to go for some poached eggs with Ian.
We'd like class on this bus.
See,
you want class? Go and watch. A good podcast with 5 million viewers every week. See, you want truth? Come watch Bhoycie Bus, mate. That's what I'm going to say to you.
Oh, I like him. I'm going to go for some.
I'm sure he's nice. I've got to share a sandwich with him.
I'm going to go for some poached eggs with you soon, Ian, mate, and we'll have it out over some poached eggs, mate. My treat. And hopefully it's on that cobble bridge as well, Ian.
That's St Andrew's golf course.
It's a lovely wee photo. That is a lovely wee photo. He's looking great.
He plays golf. He plays golf. Next comment, for fuck's sake.
Well, one of the things was just regarding yesterday, and again, just this lack of changing tact. Like, we bring on a guy yesterday, Russell, who is 6'3", so naturally you'd think, well, it's not really working for us trying to pass it around him. Why don't we try and hit him with some long balls? And we didn't really utilise it. There was a couple of times he got up and won a few where we actually did try to find him, but it's just weird how, again, it goes back to Brendan's sort of stubbornness and not want to change it. It's like, well, you brought in a guy that's completely a different type of striker to Kyogo, and you've kept Kyogo on the park, but they were still trying a lot of the same things. And it's like, well, surely Ida is there for these sticky situations where just go long, hit him with a big, diagonal. Essentially, he can win a knock on or something. Mm-hmm. But it just felt like it was just a change for the sake of it. Just we'll just make a sub just to look like I'm actually doing something. And I say we're going down to obviously the Easter Road on Wednesday night, and I'd expect Kyogo's going to start again. But if we find ourselves in another position where we're struggling for goals, as we usually do at Easter Road, is it going to just be a change for the sake of it? Or is he going to just, he's actually going to tell them, no, we're going to actually try and change it up in terms of the shape and the strategy? Because that's one of the biggest, most worrying things for me is, it just seems like a very stubborn mentality of this is the formation we're going to play, and this is the style we're going to keep playing. They say he's now brought in a striker that is completely different to that mould. And yeah, yesterday it was like, just throw him on there, just see what happens. It's like, no, you need to play to the guy's strengths, and that worries me, Russell. In-game management and stuff like that is concerning.
I don't really know what the answers for it are. I mean, obviously, again, we talk about snobbery with tactics of the one-up. I think Mark was touching on there, we never seem to stretch teams. If these guys can't, for whatever reason it being, these wingers can't beat their man, like the judge is alluding to, and he's got a good point when you try to rack your brains for them, at times skinning players, and that. You don't see it very often. If that's the problem, though, surely at times, I know teams don't play particular high lines against Celtic, but there has to be moments in time where you get the head up, you see a bit of space, and instead of stretching them by beating the man, you find wee pockets that Maeda or Palmer or Kuhn, as it may be, can then run into and behind. And then, one thing I would say about the Celtic team, I know it's all doom and gloom now, but undeniable, we've got guys in the middle of the park that can find those sort of pockets of space to play the ball into and get those runs met. Maeda might make the odd run, might take a touch that puts it out for a shy or corner kick, you never know. But then there might be the odd time, like at Ibrox, where he latches onto something and finishes with a composure that you just didn't know he had in him. And I think there is many ways, I've always said there's many ways to skin a cat. And I think at times we're guilty under both Ange. I thought the fans were very guilty of going, but he won't do that. He can't do that. And I always used to think, well, that's you slagging him off, if you hear what I'm saying. Like, because if he's an elite manager, trust me, he'll know many ways to win football matches, not just one. With Brendan, you would like to think he's been in the game long enough to kind of know a few ways, a few different tactics, albeit I take on board, I think a lot of the football we've seen this year will hark back to that final Brendan season where we all got a bit of the fear. And if you're too proud to make changes, that's what worried me about Ange. And I stand by it at times. I think he was too proud to want to change it. Champions League, plaudits, not points. EPL of late, plaudits, not points. Keep your eye on that one. But I mean, for Brendan's point of view, all he's got to do is find a way to win. And honestly, I don't think all will be forgiven. Find a way to win. Yeah, a wee golden handshake in the summer and bolt. That's what he has to do. If it were me, I'd make the change for him now. I would just take him out because I've got no faith that will happen. But if you are in Brendan's shoes, just to give you the other side of the argument, and you're racking your brains for what to change, he has to get any pride put on the shelf in terms of how his philosophy or what he thinks always wins. He has to get all that to fuck. He has to go in and accept that his own failings so far this season, and he's going to have to try and find a way now to get this team to start winning again. And it can't just be pin a tail on the donkey either. And I think that was a bit of the three subs that we've seen at the weekend. Yep. It has to be now a more concise, and whether it's dropping off, again, your own pride and going, can you go to up top? Or whatever it may be. That's just a suggestion. They'll have more ideas than me. But I just hope they can try and get it right. And, as I say, shelf your pride. Doesn't matter about what elite managers do. It doesn't matter what's in vogue. What's in vogue and what matters most at Celtic is winning football matches. Go do that first and foremost.
Aye, and it must start. It has to start this coming Wednesday at Easter Road. But yeah, of course we'll just up to an hour, guys. So we'll call it there for this Sunday Blether. Another one in the books. Tomorrow, Monday Club back as normal. Russell, another feisty one with you and Jono, I'd imagine. That should be good to hear his take on it. And then Wednesday night will be the games. Will be PMP. We'll be on for that one. And we'll be back with all the usual antics of the Bhoycie Bus. Of course, if you want to be alerted as to when the Bhoycie Bus is live, and we do go live a lot, of course, remember to hit that subscribe button on the way out if you haven't done so yet, because we've got 488 viewers right now. Actually went over 500 at some point during the show. I get a funny feeling not all of them were Celtic fans, though, if I'm being honest. But hey, if you like what we do, and you want to keep your life a little bit longer, sure, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification. Keep in mind when we're on the road. And yeah, guys, with that said done, we will we'll be heading out of here. And of course, what with a show in the Bhoycie Bus, you've ended it like this. As always, guys, you've got to keep your eyes on the board. We'll catch you later.